honestly, the refugee camp either made you or broke you, and if it don't make you, it break you. And for me, thankfully, it did not break me. It reshaped my life, and we know the stories of the Bible. So, whether we read it literally or otherwise, God always has a way of preparing people for the life He has ahead of them. And for us Liberians, the refugee camp, and back home, we had a lot of difficult days. Even as I speak to you, Ebola is still hurting Liberia. So I've come to that place in life that I just trust that God is in charge. God reigns, and so no matter what life throws at us or what we go through, if we keep our eyes on God, God always makes a way out. So as I think about those difficult days, and even now what is happening, I'm very hopeful that, the common saying that after the storm, the sun will shine. So after those difficult days, here am I today, blessed to be in this country with a strong congregation. And as I think about what's happening now, we believe that it will also end, and Liberia will be what it needs to be. Peace will be restored, and Ebola will go away. And just as God has helped us to overcome challenges in the past, they will overcome, and we will continue to look to God for the future that God has for us. Talking of seminary memories, first thing was that it provided a community for me, because I began seminary a year after I arrived in the States. And there was that cultural shock. It was a new community, a new society. But going to the seminary, the environment, close environment with everyone caring for one another, praying together, eating together, worshiping together, going to class together. So it provided a family for me, the family that I have left behind, because by this time I have come just by myself. So the seminary really provided a very warm and welcoming environment that really gave me some stability in my new country or new place of residence. That I'm proud to say now I'm a citizen of the United States, but then I was a refugee. Cut long story short, the Civil War started in Liberia in 1989, and most of us who were young men, we were at risk, because if we did not fight the war, we were considered to be enemies of the revolution. So to be safe, we had to flee the country. And that's how I went to Ghana, and I was in Ghana for about 8 to 9 years. And whilst I was in Ghana, I was attending school in Accra, which is the capital city of Ghana, during the weekdays. And I would come to the refugee camp on the weekend to provide some leadership, because one of my friends put it the right way: when we left Liberia, we left everything behind, but we took our faith with us. So we took our faith to the refugee camp, and in my case, I was a Lutheran, and there was a need to bring the Lutheran community of refugees together. And so that's how we started the Lutheran Refugee Congregation, which I served for 4 years whilst I was doing my undergraduate study in Accra, which is the capital city. So I did schoolwork weekdays and ministry on the weekend at the refugee camp. And the refugee camp is hard and difficult to describe, because I told the bishop it was our own wilderness experience, because the refugee camp is very, very difficult. There were no houses. We had to live in tents. There were no waters. We had to walk for miles to fetch water, or go to neighboring countries, neighboring towns to buy water to bring it into the camp. So the best way I could describe it, it was a kind of a wilderness experience, but during that time we learned a lot about life challenges, up and down, and difficulties. And because we did not leave our faith behind, God was with us, and God saw us through. And today, through the refugee camp, I was able to come to the United States. Actually, it was the final year when I returned from internship in Massachusetts. I was, final year, I had a lot of time on my hands, so I could entertain guests. And one of the young men who came to faith through our ministry on the refugee camp kind of adopted me as a surrogate father. So he came visiting, and that shouldn't be surprising. You can be young and say that be a father for somebody in the African culture. So he came to visit me with a woman, a young lady who he had known to be a friend of his family, and And on campus, I offered them food. They didn't eat, but they left. But apparently, we kind of created some likeness for each other. And she was from Minnesota at the time. She was living in Minnesota. So after a couple of months, I think 4 or 5 months, we reconnected and we started dating. And lo and behold, we got married the next year. Godwin Lathrop is that the name, if I still remember. He taught liturgy. I think he inspired me a lot when it comes to worship, making it contextual to fit the setting. And so as you will see in our second worship, the content is there, the Lutheran content is there, but the style is a little bit different because it's the worship of the people. So the people have to worship God in the way they know to worship God, to express their gratitude and thanks. So Godwin Lathrop definitely inspired me. And of course, you have to have a solid theological foundation. And of course, Dr. Winger, Lutheran Confession, was one of the things that really helped make me a solid Lutheran pastor, if I should claim that. I'm back in seminary. I'm hoping to graduate this year with my DME. I've done all of the work. It's just left with the project. And I'm titling my project Tide Turning Evangelical Partnership. I think the church has had its history ups and downs. Our former bishop liked to say God has a way of not allowing the church to rest or to become too comfortable. So I think what's happening now is a time of preparation for another day, and I think the cycle continues. The difficulties of the church now is not the first time. So I am not one of those who think that, hey, all is lost. We are just going through a period of transition, and the church will be strong again, even more than what it was in the past. I might be maybe too optimistic, but I believe, and our church here is an example. When I look at the church, the next 50, 100 years is great because we have 6 generations of people here, and guess what? The 4 younger are the majority in this congregation. So we have the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, the 2 years old, the 3 years old, and the way they love this church, I see them being here in the next 20, 30, 40 years as leaders and members of this congregation.